the time of the incident. Katrina Moe now rounds up what we know so far.
A busy pub packed with people enjoying a live music event on Friday night in Glasgow. Initially, those inside were unaware that a police helicopter had crashed onto the roof.
There was like a whoosh noise. There was no bang, there was no explosion, and then there was some smoke, what seemed like smoke. So the bands were laughing and we were all joking that the band had made the roof come down, and you know, that was fine. They carried on playing, and then it started to come down more and someone started screaming.
The centre of the roof had caved in. Emergency services scrambled to the scene, describing the crash as a major incident. The Labour MP Jim Murphy happened to be nearby. He helped get people out.
It's a bit of a blur, but what happened is people just formed, if you like, a little bit of a human chain, side by side with each other to help pull injured people out, and wanting to just pass one person, just pass the person from one another to each other, so that people could be taken free from the danger and hopefully to hospital treatment.
It happened just before 10:30 on Friday night. The Cultha Pub lies on the north bank of the Clyde in a popular residential area on Stockwell Street. Witnesses outside say they saw the helicopter dropping like a stone. Authorities say 2 police officers and a civilian pilot were on board, but didn't give details of their condition. It has been confirmed that people have been trapped inside, but the fire service say it's a complex rescue operation.
We're in the process at the moment of making the building stable. It's very unsafe, but we're there. We're carrying out extensive work, and we'll be here for as long as it takes to make sure that we get those rescues done.
On the social media site Twitter, First Minister of Scotland Alex Salmond warned that fatalities were likely. Ambulances have been lining up to take people away. Glasgow Royal Infirmary described the injuries so far as very serious. For many, the shock's still setting in.
I consider myself very, very lucky to have been where I was, and I feel very sorry for the unlucky ones who were caught under the rubble.
It's still unclear what caused the helicopter to crash. Katrina Moe, BBC News.
Well, an investigation is underway to try to establish exactly why the helicopter crashed. Still, we don't know, but I've been speaking to Douglas Bryden. He's a trainee pilot with experience of both fixed-wing and rotor aircraft. He's also a former aviation firefighter.
From what I think, it's quite clear to me that the aircraft, or as a pilot's point of view, the first thing you do when you lose power is you have to get that aircraft back in control. So you want to get that aircraft on the ground as quick as you can. And your first priority is to basically keep the airspeed going with your wings. And in the instance of a helicopter, you've got to keep the rotors spinning. So you have to disengage them from their job of lift and basically put the aircraft into a dive. That's the first thing you do. And the pilots, it's drilled into them from day one, especially in rotary wing. Not so much with a fixed-wing aircraft or an aeroplane, as most people would know, but with a rotary aircraft or a helicopter. You basically have to drop it like a stone to maintain the airspeed of the rotors, and you would then re-engage the rotors at the very last minute, the last 25, 30 feet of the drop, because as you're dropping, the rotors are spinning around as faster and faster and faster, just the air travelling over them, and then basically you would bleed the power from those rotary wings and re-engage it as lift. So basically you'd drop the aircraft as like a stone. But the pilot's got so much to do in such little time. And going with your eyewitness reports, I believe he's probably got a mayday call out straight away as protocol. First thing you do is tell people to come down. If he realises that he can't fly out of danger or restart the engines because he's at an altitude where he can't restart, he'll simply make the aircraft safe. In this instance, I believe he's just isolated his batteries, switched his fuel off, and there's a whole checklist, but he's gone through it fantastically well in such a short period of time.
How much control would a pilot have in that situation? In other words, do you think that the pilot would have targeted that flat roof as a place that he could possibly do the best job he could in landing?
In my short experience and listening to very experienced pilots, these being ex-army pilots for rotary wing, there's absolutely no way you would target any civilian building. You would go for waist round. Bear in mind it was dark. He was probably minimum 500 feet in the air, So from 500 feet up, looking down at a well-lit city, there will be dark patches that may possibly have looked like a car park from that height. And as he got closer, he's realised that that dark patch is probably going to be the top of a pub. And looking at your pictures, unfortunately for him, it was the top of a building because it's all dark. It wasn't lit at all. And there's nothing you can do. When you're committed, you are committed. But he's done a great job. He didn't. He's flared or he's brought down to a controlled stop. Because your eyewitnesses, and again, I can only go with what eyewitnesses are saying within the building. They're saying that they heard a slight bump and there was a whoosh and the ceiling was to come in. I believe he's done a fantastic, what's called an auto rotation. So the last 30 feet of the fall, he's brought down to a nice cushioned landing. Bear in mind the blades are still spinning at a hell of a speed, and he'll start to make that aircraft safe. And unfortunately, as the blades are spinning down in airspeed, the weight of the aircraft is transferred from the blades down onto the roof itself. And unfortunately, I think it's gone through, and with those blades spinning, it's been severely catastrophic. And it's also done a boom strike where the rotor blades have hit the back of the boom or the tail of the aircraft and sheared off, and you can see that in the pictures. You can see clearly.
That's Douglas Bryden speaking to me earlier. Well, Edward Waltham was just 50 yards away from the pub when the helicopter crashed into it. He had a friend inside. He also helped evacuate some of the casualties. He described the scene when he arrived.
I was heading into the pub to meet a friend who went just a few minutes before me and unfortunately was in the pub when the incident happened, and I was making my way along to meet him, and I was only about 50 to 100 metres away from it when I heard the explosion, which stopped me in my tracks. And when I looked up a few minutes later, there was a very obvious cloud of smoke making its way into the air, and from my observations I could see it was coming from the Cultha Pub, and at that point I just ran towards the pub.
Was it obvious when you looked up that it was a helicopter?
No, not at all. I had absolutely no idea it was a helicopter. In my opinion, and my professional background, I thought it was a gas explosion.